Bill Marrone, and I'm one of the instructors here from Rutgers OCPE, and I've been with them for about 5 years and have been in training and development for about 25 or so years. I enjoy teaching a lot. I enjoy it because I meet so many different people, just like we're meeting today, and I get to learn a lot too. And what we're going to do in this very brief amount of time is to go over, what are some of the important aspects of good business writing, and we touch on, we also have an emphasis on email communication, because we know that's one of the key tools that people are using anymore for communicate with one another. But regardless of how you're communicating, or what you're doing in terms of whether it's an email or a letter or a memo or a report, the basics of writing are all the same. There are certain things we need to keep in mind. So what we're going to do in the short amount of time is kind of touch on some of the key aspects of what makes a person an effective writer. And one of the things I really like to emphasize right from the very beginning is that clear thinking will lead to clear writing. That's like one of the mantras in this course, because so often that's not what we do. We just jump in and do. We do that a lot, not just with writing, there's other things we do that with too. It's just as critical with writing. So what I like to do, just before we jump in, I like to just try a little something with folks. And I do say when I teach my classes, I let folks know that English is not one of the easiest languages to work with. Whether you're native born or not, it's one of the toughest ones because it has so many different irregularities in terms of grammar and spelling and things of that nature. So it's really sometimes can throw a seasoned writer for a loop. And the best writers have people look at and read and edit and review their information. That's not to say everybody needs to have their emails reviewed, I don't mean that. But the idea is that how do they step back and review their own stuff and think about what they're saying? Is it really getting across what they intend to get across? So, for a little fun, I'm going to ask, is it Barbara again? Okay, Barbara, I'll bring it over here. Okay, and can you read this? See that print? I always tell people to bring your glasses in case you need them. That's it.
You want to read it out?
Yeah,
The soldier decided to desert his dessert in the desert.
It is hard, right? Yeah, a little bit of a tongue twister on top of everything too. So again, just to emphasize that there's so many different nuances to writing and writing well. So we play with a little bit of things like that just to kind of get people warmed up. What you have in front of you is a workbook which just has bits and pieces of what we cover in the course. There's more to it as well. Typically it's a 4-hour course, and sometimes I've done actually an 8-hour course where you get a little more in depth depending upon what the needs of the organization are. So it's flexible in that way. So what you're going to see here, although it says effective business writing on the cover, we do cover email is a big part of it, and I need to make sure that people again get that idea that writing, no matter what it is, you need to use the tools and models that are good for any type of writing. So if you took a look at your workbooks, I just want you to know how I sort of structure things. And again, if you look on the second page, there's some learning outcomes, which describes what we hope people will get out of the program. We help them focus and know this is what we're shooting for. And what we do is I present a couple different models for writing. One is the reader's side. What do the readers look for? And what does the writer need to do to meet those needs? And so there's a couple different models that we present. There's also a number of different exercises and tools so that they start looking at, what are some of the key things I can do to make sure I am getting my message across. Because I emphasize that if you want to have good communication, whether it's verbal or written, the message sent has to equal the message received. Right? So we look at writing for clarity, writing for conciseness, for correctness, courtesy, and confidence as well. How do you write assertively? How do you come across showing that you really know what you're talking about? Right? And that's a key thing. And again, we do a lot of practice throughout the course of the program, because that's the way people learn to write best, is to practice. There's a lot of peer review involved, which means I have people look at one another's writing and analyze it. I give them peer review sheets, and I'll give you one at the end of the program so you can just see one version of what I use. Again, in order for people to really learn to write well, it's good for them to be able to sort of sit back and analyze other people's writing as well. It's one of the most effective tools for learning how to write. And it's done that way even in college. I know my wife's not a communications, but a composition teacher here at Rutgers, and so she's faced with analyzing lots of different reports and papers as well. So one of the exercises that we do here to get people started, if you see again on page 2, it says write a set of directions on how to, and I offer them some samples, although they can do anything they want. Write a set of directions on how to tie your shoes, how to drive a car, how to bake a cake, how to plant a bush, and say go for it. And then we take a look at it and we see, what do they do? How do they jump into that assignment? What are some of the steps that they take to get that point across? And with that exercise done, then we have an opportunity right from the beginning to examine, how did you approach it? And the peer review sheet, this is just part of it, kind of gives some of the guiding questions that people will use to help them analyze one another's material. And of course, as they analyze somebody else's, it allows them to start analyzing their own material all the better. Okay? So what this does, again, also, I think I said a little earlier that it starts to emphasize right from the beginning that clear thinking will lead to clear writing. And that's again, as I said before, it's one of the themes I keep bringing up in the course. So the next page, on page 3, you're going to see one of the models, and that is what the reader wants. And what the reader wants, the 3 C's are context, content, and close. These are questions that the reader will actually think about, not so much step by step. Will they say, well, what is this? Who wrote it? When was it written? But they'll process the information in that way. They'll take the document and start thinking about it. And again, they'll start thinking about it and in terms of these 3 C's, and then they'll also take a look at, well, what does this mean to me? And I talk about a model called, or a tool called the U focus. How do you keep in mind the reader's needs? And again, that's the real goal. As we said, whenever you write something, you're not writing for yourself. Because if you are, you're doing a journal or a diary, and that's all good and well. But you're usually writing for somebody else. So you have to keep their needs in mind. So that being the case, I'd like for you to take a look and flip over to page 4. And this is just one quick exercise I'm going to ask you to do. Simply is this. Just read the letter, and if you are indeed the receiver of such a letter, what would your thoughts and reactions be to this letter? What jumps out at you? I'll let you read. Take a few moments. All right, what jumps at you?
Well, the tone, too.
Tone, mm-hmm.
The tone is like finally did this. Luckily,
Finally did it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Ooh, I want to go there now. Yeah. Okay. Grammar. Mm-hmm.
Everything is wrong.
Everything. Yeah, there's so many different things. So, again, this is, hopefully this is not the real McCoy, although I use some of the documents I bring in actually are documents that I grab from different sources. Names have been changed to protect the innocent, but they analyze writing actually using yet another technique to help them see whether or not the needed points are getting across. As one example, there's an email that, again, I've doctored it up a little bit, changing names and so on, but it's about an email that was related to the challenger. It was about the O-rings. And the way it was written, it really did not say what the criticality was of this information. It was just information. So what does it mean? Tell me what it means. It wasn't there. And I'm sure there was a lot of other things besides a bum email, but it all helped to contribute to a disastrous situation. So that's an extreme, but it just shows how critical what we say and what we're trying to get across needs to really have focus to it. On the following page, it's just another tool that I use for people to help analyze the letter that you had just taken a look at. So you just have an at-a-glance look at that. I'm going to do one more thing, and I know we're almost out of time, and then I can entertain some questions outside about some of the elements. But the other model that we have here is just what it calls the ready, aim, fire model. It's the writer's angle. What do they need to do to make sure that they're covering the bases? Preparing, thinking, and then the actual doing, which is the fire. And part of the program also focuses on analyzing, making sure that analyzing your writing so that you are hitting in the middle section very well, And also there's exercises to make sure they're hitting on the far side on the right here, the actual grammar and using the right word choice. I mean, somebody said to me that when they use the word there, that's either T-H-E-I-R or T-H-E-R-E or apostrophe R-E. She said, I can't get my employees to use the right one ever, it seems. So one of the things I tell people is that you don't have to need to know everything about how to write well, but you need to know where to get the resources. And there's a lot of hard copies and also online resources. I put them in the book. People can go to them and find links to a lot of different things that help them figure it out. As I said, my wife's a composition teacher, and she says, Bill, I can't remember how to spell such and such. And here's what Mom says, but you're a writing teacher. She says, hey, Mom, just look it up. All right? All right. There's some samples of email documents that I use in the course as well, and there's samples of what not to do. And we cover a lot about, well, what do you do so you're coming across and getting that message across the way it's intended. I wish I had more time with you because the more I talk about it, the more I realize how much I love to teach this class,